What was the world like prior to the Void Century? Well, according to Dr. Vegapunk, it was highly advanced, and that Egghead Island is an island from the past, and that civilization back then had technology that was similar to that of Egghead Island. As I've been trying to tell you guys for a few years now, that the world was way more advanced than we were led to believe, and it makes a lot of sense, as some of the stuff in modern day already happened centuries ago. Robots, the automata, are very similar to the pacifista. The skypeians once lived on the moon and traveled to the blue sea using spaceship that they created. Wipers, kairoseki gliders were actually made from wano, hinting that they learned how to put sea stone in objects centuries ago. The ancient weapons such as Pluton, or even that giant thing that destroyed Lelucia Kingdom, and of course devil fruits. I've been saying for a long time that Vegapunk isn't simply creating these technologies for the first time, but actually replicating and learning from the past, and thus bringing it to modern day, trying to play catch up. And if what Vegapunk said is true, and judging based on how the One Piece world is today, it's looking like that the One Piece is actually set in a post-apocalyptic world, where we gotta wonder now, what did the world government do to the world 800 years ago? So today I want to dissect how life was like prior to the Void Century, and how the world government set everything back and became the rulers of the world. Of course, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and click the bell icon to stay notified. I would greatly appreciate it. You guys have no idea. I appreciate the support. But without further ado, let's talk about the Void Century, or well, the world before the Void. So the cool thing is that there's a lot of history in the world of One Piece, and that it predates the Void Century by thousands of years, as the earliest point in history that we know in the story is the planting of the Tree of Knowledge on Ohara that happened 5,000 years ago, and the Alubarna Palace predates the Alabasta Kingdom being created 4,000 years ago. And of course, there is Zunisha, who was born 1,000 years ago, and at some point in time, the Skypeians left the moon after running out of resources and descending to the blue sea to make up their new home. And at some point, Shandia was known as a thriving civilization and one of the strongest kingdoms in the world. Throw in the big cliffhanger of chapter 1065 with the giant armor or robot and all the metals surrounding it, as well as the automata existing way back in the day, which are just robots created by the Skypeians. You can obviously tell that the technology from back in the day was highly advanced compared to today, and that the government did something to set everything back. And from what we can gather, it did seem like mythical creatures did roam around the earth as well. From the way they described dragons and sun god Nika, it sounded as if they existed at one point in time. The celestial dragons even have some sort of fascination and obsession over the dragon species, begging Vegapunk to recreate them for whatever reason. And if you look at the culture of Wano, they have a lot of mythical creatures roaming around, so the world at large probably had similar things. There may have been a religion revolving around the sun, as evident with the giants of Elbaf as well as Shandia. This could be a result of them being followers of sun god Nika, of course. And then there's the moon stuff, where there are so many references to the moon within the story, with the Skypeians coming from there. Some cultures are named after the moon, such as the main families of Wano. Even one of their symbols look like the crescent moon. Of course, there was the globe in Ohara that depicted several moons. We don't know if that was accurate, but it might hint that the One Piece world has more than one moon. Regardless, the people back then did seem to have a fixation or connection to the celestial bodies, the moon and the sun. We also know before the world government, there were the lunarians, who were considered gods, living on top of the red line, calling it God's land. But they weren't the only gods roaming around, as the legend of sun god Nika was created before the Void Century, who was most likely the progenitor of the Will of D, who are carrying the will of Nika, joy, and happiness, which could explain why most of them are freedom fighters and smart smile when they die. They might have been the ones to create devil fruits and maybe even the rulers of the Great Kingdom. And Joy Boy or Nika or whoever, I guess, ate the first devil fruit and thus cursing the D clan and making them the natural enemies of God. The D clan naturally go against everything that the world government represents. Judging off the relationships he has with other races, I do believe Joy Boy wanted to unite the world as one. He probably had the same moral compass as Roger and Luffy, even sharing the same dream as them, and Luffy will accomplish that in modern day, literally continuing the will of D. And it was 800 years ago where the Gum Gum fruit last awakened, who was most likely Joy Boy, who had pretty good relationship with many races around the world like the Fishmen, Lunarians, the Giants, the Minks, etc. He also traveled the world alongside his companion Zunisha. The Great Kingdom was also formed during this time period until its eventual downfall at the end of the Void Century, once the world government united 20 kingdoms to take it out in fear of this civilization. Similar to Sun God Nika, they don't even want the name to be mentioned as they try to erase everything that happened during the Void Century. But luckily for the Ancient Kingdom, with the help of the Kozuki clan, they managed to put their story on the poneglyphs in order for someone to eventually find the truth somewhere down the line. And the little theory of mine is that the Ancient Kingdom was once named Mary Jawa, meaning that the world government not just stole the god's land of the Lunarians, but also the Ancient Kingdom itself. Because the name Mary Jawa sounds and does look similar to the words Mary Joys or Many Joys, it's possible that this country or kingdom once belonged to Sun God Nika, who's known to bring laughter and smiles to everywhere he goes. And because the Sunlight Eve tree is located at Mary Jawa, and because we know his name is Sun God Nika, he probably maybe created this place or was connected to this tree. So the fishermen decided to live under the red line because it's the only place on the seafloor to get sunlight, but also maybe because of the protection of Sun God Nika. But regardless, it seems as though civilization was thriving 900 years ago, but we still don't understand what happened. But for us to understand that, I think we need to know why it happened. I believe the safest option is that 20 kingdoms in the world thought the Great Kingdom was getting way too powerful, so they banded together in order to take them out. And you have to remember, one of these 20 kingdoms was Alabasta, which is considered to be a traitor, as the Nefertari family decided to say on the Blue Sea with everyone else. And they hold a poneglyph that leads to the location of Pluton, which is in Wano, so obviously the Alabasta Kingdom is connected to the Ancient Kingdom, or at least on good terms. They even have a sun as their flag. But yet even they decided that the Ancient Kingdom had to go. Personally, I think the ancestor of Marshall D. Teach and Roxy Zabek, the Evil D, had a lust for power, overthrowing the Ancient Kingdom and taking control, and thus the rest of the world united to take him out, as that would ruin the balance of the world, as they just had way too much power. And I think the world government probably got a little too greedy and started going around the world and captivating it, becoming the rulers of the planet. I think a major theme of back then, or in the story in general, is freedom versus order, and that you can't have too much of either, otherwise the balance of the world will literally be destroyed. Blackbeard is a good example of too much freedom, which means chaos, whereas Akainu wants total domination and control. And through their rampage, they fought against Shandia. Wano isolated themselves in fear of the world government, and even the Skypeians decided to live above the cloud. But I cannot deny the similarities between the Skypeians and the Celestial Dragons. There were originally 3 races, so it's possible one of them didn't agree with the other 2. Even Enel is almost identical to that of Doflamingo and the Celestial Dragons, as the leaders of the Skypeians are considered gods. The entrance to Skypiea is called God's Land, which is the exact name that Mary Jawa had when the Lunarians ruled over. They also called Luffy the natural enemy of God to both Doflamingo and Enel is very similar to that of the Celestial Dragons, having a god complex as well as his own slave. That the Moonfolk, when descending to the earth because of their angel wings and the fact that their technology was so highly advanced, they were considered gods. They also mention a cleansing in order to maintain the balance of the world, so similar to that of Water 7, where Pluton was created, as well as Wano, where Pluton is currently located, maybe through certain means, the government have sunk a lot of civilization underwater, and thus they literally meant a cleansing of the world. And because they live above the red line, they're safe as they sit way above seawater level. This could be a little foreshadowing on Oda's part to showcase how the world government destroyed the world from 900 years ago. And this could be why the Noah ship was originally created for the fishmen, because of the acts of the world government. Joy Boy wanted to bring them to safety to another island, or with the big theory that the red line will be destroyed, it will cause a catastrophic tsunami, erasing probably a lot of islands, and because Fishman Island's right underneath it, it'd be a safe way to transport them to a different place. As when you think of the Noah ship, you think of the Bible, where the ship Noah created was used to bring a lot of races into safety after the world was flooded. Because the fishmen are literally half fish, they can just swim wherever they want, a ship is not needed, but this could be a great explanation why that Noah ship is so important. But those are just my thoughts. Knowing the government, they probably were just humans and just stole the land from the Skypeians and Lunarians, and maybe even inspired by them. A part of me wouldn't be surprised if Lunarians aren't actually natural race, but genetically created using DNA lineage factor. Because the whole fire thing on their back is really weird and reminds me of like machines. And of course there's Emu. The big theory is that he betrayed Joy Boy, and through so many instances through the story we've seen that there's always someone that wants to overthrow the government, and there's some sort of misunderstanding with the previous king. But what's most likely the case is that the situation is flipped, and it's the D clan that is connected to the Skypeians, as there are so many races and clans that are connected to the moon. The biggest indicator being Luffy in Gear 5 posing in front of the moon. Oda even made that a volume cover. I do 100% believe that the D clan are related to at least one of the 3 moon races, and the D clan are potentially the original gods and originated from the moon. I just wanted to talk about the similarities between the world government and the Skypeians. I left out the whole ancient giants, sea kings, and whales because I do think they are important, but I'm not exactly sure how they fit into all this. A theory is that Joy Boy was actually one of the ancient giants because of the giant straw hat in the basement of Mary Joa, and that explains why the government tried to recreate the ancient giants, because they know how powerful they are. And that Thriller Bark Ores is a huge foreshadowing as to who Joy Boy was. And I wanted to dedicate an entire video on devil fruits because there's a lot going on there as well. But regardless, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This has gone long enough. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Of course, have a good day and a good night. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.